Hello, everybody. My name is Alessandro Pache, but you can call me Al. And today I'm talking to one of the most recognized voices in radio today. Despite his very recent retirement, he's been the face of WFAN in New York for the last 20 plus years, covering national sports with his one-of-a-kind New York flair. Joe Benigno, how you doing today?
I'm good, Al. What's shaking, man? Everything all right?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm just excited to see what you have to say, excited to hear about your career and everything you've done. So, to start off, I'm kind of curious about how you developed your passions and how they came to be. So what made you decide you wanted to work in radio?
Well, nothing really. To be honest with you, it just happened. It just really happened. I was a caller to the WFAN for a long time. I never thought that it would play out the way it did, and circumstances came my way on a number of different levels. I got involved with calling Mike and the Mad Dog on a regular basis. I guess, and I didn't ever realize it at the time. They had a contest where they were looking for, maybe raw talent, I guess is the way you would call it. And as a longtime caller, I happened to be one of the guys fortunate enough to get an opportunity, and just kind of went from there.
Interesting. And we're going to get into that raw talent later because that's a good segue into my further questions. How did you initially get your foot into WFAN?
Well, like I said, being a caller, I mean, I was a caller for many years. One of the more known callers to the radio station, specifically to Mike and Chris, Mike and the Mad Dog, Francesa and Russo, and that's really how it started. I mean, it just all kind of went from there.
Interesting. What does a typical day at the office look like for Joe Benigno?
Well, there is no more office anymore. The office is home,
Right.
but typical day, you know, uh, go to the radio station for the brutal commute that it always was, and just do the show. I mean, there was no my preparation was just my partner as well, Evan Roberts. Our preparation was just following the games, following what was going on in the sports world, and just basically getting together at 10 o'clock. For the most time we did 10 to 1, getting together at 10 o'clock and just going for it. There was, like I said, our preparation was just doing what I've done since I was 7 years old, and that's just watching sports and following the sports world.
Yeah, so not very difficult if you've been doing it your whole life. So, I mean, that kind of builds into my other question. How long does it take you to prepare for a show usually? Or what do you most anticipate about that process and what do you most dread?
Well, again, there really is no preparation. The preparation is what I've been doing since I was 7 years old. So it's not a matter of every day I'm getting up and I got an hour. Let me figure out what we're going to do today. That's never the way it was. You know,
Right.
Both of us knew what was going on. We didn't have to sit and talk to each other about what we were going to do. We basically, like I said, we got on the show. Maybe I saw him 10 minutes before the show started, and we were off and running. So there's never been any kind of specific preparation to do anything. It never was that way.
So it all comes pretty naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the stuff that I know and the stuff that most of the guys that do what I do, and I won't say everybody because there's plenty of people in this business that really don't really know a lot about sports. I mean, what the business is today, it's totally different than it was 25 years ago, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I think you really had to know something about what was going on in the sports world. I don't know if that's necessarily the way it is today, but that's just really the way it is. Just what I know is I couldn't get by studying a book and studying about it. It's just, like I said, just living it for the last 60 years or whatever you want to call it, something like that, close to 60.
Yeah. What kind of relationships have you been able to build throughout your career at the fan? What kind of people have you got the chance of meeting?
Well, I mean, I've got to meet all kinds of different athletes, different people in the sports media, guys who I grew up, if you want to use the word idolizing. I mean, many. Joe Namath, Walt Clyde Frazier, Tom Seaver, Darryl Strawberry. We could go on and on, with the different guys I've gotten to meet in my life. So, and I've been very fortunate in that regard. So that's, I don't know if I necessarily built relationships with all these people, but certainly had the opportunity, to meet and to interview many of the greats and people that were, big people in the sports world.
Right. Well, when you talk about people you've met, to you look up to. Certainly, you've met plenty of people that you've idolized, but if you think about the relationships you've developed, at least think about Mike Francesa, calling him Mike and the Mad Dog. I'm sure that relationship developed tenfold from calling to working at the Fan alongside him.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was an interesting dynamic. Mike and I had our issues over the years. I will say that there were some things that happened that, kind of put a little wedge between our relationship for a while. But, I respect Mike. I mean, he did a lot to get me into this business. There's no question about it. And he's the best that ever did it. I mean, there's nobody that's ever been better than Mike Francesa as far as sports talk. He's the Pope. He's the Pope.
Higher praise coming from Joe B. How important is it to set yourself apart from your coworkers? What strengths did you bring to the business that your coworkers didn't have?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't compare myself to anybody. I'm just me. I just go in and do the show. I'm no different than off the air than I was on the air. I never tried to compare myself to anybody. I mean, I was certainly influenced by, Mike and the Mad Dog. Listening to them all those years, I certainly, if you want to say, learned a lot from how to do things. I think I did from those guys. But as far as setting myself apart from anybody, I mean, I never compared myself to anybody. I mean, I was me and never tried to be anything more than that.
What do you think is the most significant project you're a part of at the Fan?
Significant project? I don't know if there was any significant project.
What do you think is the biggest project?
What's that?
The biggest project you were a part of at the Fan?
Well, I mean, the biggest project was just, being able to do what I did for 25 years. I mean, there was no, major project or any big production. It was just basically, having the career that I wound up having, doing the overnights for 9.5 years to start my career, doing 10 to 1 for all the years that I did that. The last year I did the afternoon drive, so I got an opportunity to experience all the different areas. I did the morning show. I filled in the morning show a little bit, although I never really did it on a full-time basis. So, that's pretty much it. I mean, I never looked at any kind of major project. It just was, being able to do shows for all those years.
Which show was your favorite?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if there was ever I could pin down one show to be my favorite. Maybe the last one. Maybe the last one was my favorite 2 weeks ago. Maybe that was it.
Well, not like show, like episode, but as in like best time to have your show. Like, did you like the morning show the best? Your overnight?
Well, the best show was the 10. The overnight show was great because it was like a different world during the overnight. It was a caller-driven show. The callers were really the star of the show. They made it what it was. My favorite hours were probably 10 to 1. Those were great hours, being, going in and that out, being done 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I did it for a lot of years. So probably the 10 to 1 slot, probably.
Where do you think the radio industry is headed, and what do you hope will change following your retirement?
I think it's headed in a different direction. I don't think I think it's more about entertainment than it ever was. I think it always kind of was entertainment, but I think it's more about that than ever before. It's not just, it's not just hardcore sports now. It's, like I said, it's more about that. It's more about, people tuning in, and it's in the sports, if you want to say the vehicle of sports, but there's all other kind of dynamics involved now. So I think it's really changed. I don't know if it's necessarily changing for the better, but it's definitely changed.
What advice would you give to someone just starting, who's trying to get into the business?
Just be yourself. Don't try to be something that you're not. Be what you are. People will see through you very quickly if you try to be something you're not.
Very simple. And that's all my questions. I appreciate you having me here on the show, answering all my stuff, and we'll do it again sometime. I appreciate it.
Alex, I appreciate it, man. All the best, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. God bless.